Hello, my name is Canada. I'm from the Learning Center and I'll be presenting on graphing. The order pairs are variables on a line. They are both represented by X and Y. To form a plane, we use two perpendicular lines and they are called axes. So we have our y-axis, which is our vertical line, and our x-axis, which is our horizontal line. Within these two lines, it gives us four quadrants. The first quadrant, those have positive value. The second quadrant is negative in the x, and then positive in the y. Our third quadrant, they are going to be both negative. And then our fourth quadrant is going to have a positive x and a negative y. Okay, now for this one, you are going to try and plot your points. So you are going to plot the following coordinates. And if you can, you're going to tell me which quadrants they are located in. Okay. So a couple minutes have went by. So what do you think on this first one is going to be located in? Since our X and Y are both positive, what quadrant?
The first quadrant.
Yes, the first quadrant. Okay. What about the second one?
In the second quadrant. So negative and positive.
Yep, a negative and positive. We'll place it in our second quadrant. What about the third?
Is their quadrant was both negative.
Yes. Then the last one?
The fourth quadrant. Okay, I was right.
Well, the last one's kind of tricky because there's a 0 in our Y. So let me go back to the previous slide and I'll show you what I mean. So like I said, the 0 is in our Y, so it'll be on the line. It's not represented in a quadrant. So it'll be in that x-axis, or the y-axis, it'll be in the y-intercept area when the line's going across. So if I would put 5, 0, it'll be right on the 5 position right here. So that was close. It was both positive. But yeah, if it was 0 and 3, it'll be on your X line at the 3. Moving forward. The equation between two variables gives a straight line where it's plotted on the graph. So what I'm going to show you now are some formulas that you can use while graphing. So the first one is the slope-intercept form. And that one is y equals mx plus b. So our m is represented by our slope. Here. So our m is our slope. Then we have our x, then b. Our b is represented by by our y-intercept. So that's why it's called slope-intercept form, is because of these two areas. So our b would be this point right here. And then m will tell us if it goes up or goes down, our line. So in this case, since it's a positive, it'll go up. If it was a negative, then it'll start going down. The next one is our point slope form. This one, once you start, later on, it'll go into our line of equations, which we'll do that one later. So the first thing we're going to do is find our slope. And to do that, we're going to use 2 points. So the first one is x1, y1. The next one is going to be x2, y2. So you're going to be using these 2 points in here. Oops. So our m equals y2. So we're going to take our y2 from here and bring it over here. And then we're going to do the same thing, but it's going to be our y1. So you're going to subtract it. And this one, our formula is going to be subtract. So if we were to have a negative y1, you would have to change your equation along the way. So it'll start forming x2. And if we use our original, then we have to put a parentheses because our y1 is a negative. So it's going to be negative y1 right here. Then close your parentheses over. Then you're going to do the same thing for here. So x2 goes here. Then our x1 goes here. Then the same thing. So, but in this case, if our x2 is negative, then this part will still stay the same. Here. So this will change on top. So a negative times a negative, that will turn into a positive. So our top equation will turn into a positive as we go. Then you will add right here. But in this case at the bottom, that just stays the same. So you just move that across. It'll be best to write it in steps so you'll know where you're at. And if you can, you can also color code it like I'm doing here. It makes it much easier to understand too. So once you solve this one, you will find your m, which is your slope. And once you find your m, you go on to the next part, which is the point slope. So for this one, you only need 1 point and your slope. So you can choose within these 2 points on what you want to do. So let's say we're going to choose our first point. You just put it where the notated ones are. So our first point is going to be right here. Then our second one is going to be right here. The first one, the one that doesn't have the number below, that's just our variable in our formula. So this will remain the same. So is this x right here. So as we go further along to the next step of this one, this formula right here will transform into your y is equal to mx plus b. N plus mx plus b. Even though the b does not show right here, it is represented by this y right here. Even though it's right here too. So in this image right here, it will show that it's giving you a point, 3 and 2. So our y1 is -2, right there. Then our x1 is a 3, right here. As you can see, even though they didn't put a parentheses, there is it shows like a little plus right here when you put your parentheses. And that gave us this plus right here because negative and negative times a negative is a positive. That shows right there. And for this one, since our m is a -1, 1 times a variable is the variable itself. So that's why on the bottom one, it doesn't show the 1, but it's an invisible one. So they distribute this 1 to each one of these right here. To each one of these. So 1 times x, or -1 times x is a -x. And -1 times a -3, and so forth. So to get rid of these parentheses, that's what they did right here. So this section here is, if you were to distribute x, the negative and negative becomes +3. So that was the next step after this equation. But to stop for the point slope is right here. This would be our answer for the point slope form. So do you have any questions so far? Are we good? Okay.
No questions.
Okay, so let's move on to the next part. So find the slope for the set of points. So there is 4 sets of points, or 4 of them. Okay, I will give you guys 7 minutes. Okay, go ahead and start. Okay, so the time is, we still have 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go. So if you're ready, go ahead and tell me your answers. Okay, we have 10 seconds left. Okay, time's up. What'd you guys get for the first one? Does anyone want to share what they got for the first one?
We're confused.
Okay, so so what I wanted you guys to do is find your slope, which was with that formula. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. So since we're since that was like that, I am gonna walk it through I just need to write down my points. Give me a moment. Okay. So for this first point, we have our x1, then our y1 right here. Then we have our x2, then our y2 right here. And we're going to use this formula that I wrote in orange. And if you want, you can actually color code your x and y, which I am going to do. So our first one, we have our y2, our 4. 4, and our equation has a negative, so it's going to remain a negative. Then we have our y1, and that's a 9. So 4 subtract 9, and then you're going to put your division, which right there, and then we're going to go to our x2, and that is a 6. And I am going to change that to a blue. So a 6. And it's a positive, so right here it's going to be positive. Then subtract. Then our x1 is a 3. So we're just put 3 here. So now we have all of our numbers in there. So 4 subtract 9. Since our 9 is a negative, our answer is going to be negative also. So I like mental math here. So we can do a number line if that's more comfortable. Other than that, you can subtract a certain way. Other than that, for now, I'm just going to do the number line. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0 is right here. Negative 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So since our 4 is a positive, we are going to go to the right side. So we're going to start off at our 9, and we're going to go to the right 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we landed at a 5, a negative 5. So our answer right here is going to be a negative 5. So below, since our 6 is a positive and it's higher, this one is just going to be 6 minus 3. And our answer is going to be a positive because our higher number is positive. And that'll be a 3 right here. So our first slope is going to be negative 5 over 3. And like I said, this one will tell us if it goes up or down. And what I mean by that one also is going to be rise over run. So some will say it's going to be rise over run like this. Right here. Which I kind of forgot to explain what this is, so I will do so during this time. So how we use our slope, our rise over run. Our rise is our vertical line. It will tell us if it goes up or down. It's on our y axis. Oops. Y axis. Our run is our vertical line. That one's on our x. So if we were to plot this point and we use our rise over run, it'll give us this point. Okay, for the second one, so we have 4 minus in our original equation. And since our 5 is a negative, we are going to put parentheses and put our -5 in it. Then below, our first number is a negative, so that wouldn't change our equation. It'll still be a negative, or subtraction. So for this one, you have to do the extra step of changing your negatives into positives, which I'll go. So we have our 4, and I'm going to use my red to see the change right here. Now our 5 is a positive because our negative and negative became a plus, and that's where that red is. And then these ones just move along right here. So now 4 plus 5, that gives us a 9. And this one, you're going to use your number line again. Okay, so we're going to start at a -1 here. Since it's a negative, we're going to go to the left side twice. So 1, 2. And that will land us on the -3. From here, you can actually reduce this one by dividing what they have in common. So for each one of this, it's going to be a 3. Well, technically a -3. So this one becomes a +1 below our top one. Since it's a -3, it's going to give us a -3 up here. And why do I mean? Because when we do the opposite of negative times a negative, they'll give us a positive. In division, we do the opposite, which a negative divided by a positive will give us a negative. So we have our 9 that's a positive, our 3 that's a negative. So our answer is going to be a -3. So you can leave it like this if you understand it when you do your rise over run, or you can actually write it as a whole number. These two are correct because they are both equivalent to each other. So you can write one or the other. So for our next one, so we have 1 minus 7. And then we have our 5 minus 0. So our 1 minus 7, but we're going to move this way. The only reason why we're moving this way is because our 1 is a positive. The one before, they were both like negative numbers. That's why we moved the opposite way. So if you guys were wondering on that, that was the reason why. So this became a -6. negative 6. Then below 5 minus 0, that just became a negative 5. So you can leave it like this, or you can put the negative in between, as the beginning, and put 6 over 5. These two are the same in both ways. So for our last one, it's going to be 0 minus 4 over 6 minus 7. Okay. Okay, so for our previous one, when I said this was a negative, this is actually a positive number. So I just re-corrected myself. So this one will have to go for only the top one. So okay. Let's go back to our fourth one. But as you can see for this, the 5 minus 0, that one remained 5. But for this one is going to change. It'll remain as a negative 4. And then for the bottom one, this one is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll land on negative 1. So our bottom is going to be a negative 1. Since it's negative 4 over negative 1, this can actually go to a negative 4. See if we do this one as a negative 1. Negative 1. The positive. So we can just leave it at this one. But other than that, you can simplify this part. Okay. So the next one. So our next form is the general form, which is ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. So our general form can actually turn into our point slope form. And then the next one after that is graphing the linear equation. So for this one, our original form is on top, which is 4x minus 6y is equal to 12. So what we're going to do is we're going to move our x to the right side of the equation. So what I mean by that is we're going to move our 4x onto the other side of our equal sign, as you can see right here. To do that, they have to do the opposite of what is in our equation. Since we have a positive 4y, we are going to subtract that because we're going to move it over our equal sign. So it's just like putting a mirror right there. Whatever reflects will reflect in the opposite way. Okay. So this one right here, actually, since we moved it across, we cancel this out. So this doesn't exist as you move to the next step. So now we have our negative 6y equals 12 minus 4x, or we can rearrange it and put it into the y equals mx plus b form. But don't forget, once we move it, we have to leave the sign with it because it came attached. So that's why it's still a negative 4 right here. So the next thing they did was they divided the coefficient, which is 6, because they're trying to isolate the y. So they divided by negative 6, negative 6, negative 6. And by doing so, since negative 6y is like a multiplication from a variable to the number, to separate that, they would have to divide. So that is like another sort of elimination right here. That's why in our final product, it's y by itself equals negative 4x over negative 6 plus 12 minus 6. What they what they did here is they simplify or reduce. That's why when you look at our final product, it's 2 over 3x minus 2. And then they graphed it afterwards. So they started with the intercept, and since it's a y-intercept by b, there is no x involved. And it's a negative 2, so it's going to be, so this is our point right here. The next thing they did the rise over run. The first one is a positive. A rise, it's 2, so you go 1, 2. It's going to be on our origin. The next thing they did was the run, which is going to be on the x-intercept. So it's a positive 3. We are going to go to the right. So 1, 2, 3, right here. By those 2 points, it gave us our line. And that's how we graph the linear equation. Okay, so this is our last little mini activity, and then we're going to do our final activity. So you are going to graph your linear equation. So we're going to graph this right here. So the best way to do this, you can create a t-chart. So you can go X, and then over here is going to be your Y. You can do 3 points, 2. 2 is the minimum because we're trying to graph a line. So you can do 1, 0, -1. That's usually most people like to do, the 1, 0, 1. Some they do 0, 1, 2. So do you guys got your points yet? So for our first one, I'm gonna do the 1, 0, -1. So basically we are gonna substitute our 1, our x, our 1 where our x is. So we have y equals 2 parentheses 1. So our y is equal, so 2 times 1 is going to be 2. So this becomes a 2 right here. Then basically we're going to do the same thing with the other ones. We put our 0 right here. 2 times 0 will give us a 0. Then our -1. 2 times -1 becomes a -2. So don't forget that a negative times a positive is become negative. So if you guys did the first one, you guys should have got 1, 2 for our first point. Second one is going to be a 0, 0. The last one is going to be a -1, -2. So we are going to graph it. So we're going to go on our x axis. So 1 right here is going to be the first point. And then we're going to move up 2 for our y. 1, 2. So our first point is going to be right here. Our second point is going to be 0. We start right here. and 0 itself. So it's going to be in our center of origin, or our origin. It's going to be right here. Then our last point, we're going to start back on our origin again. This time it's going to be a -1, so we move over to the negative side to the first one. Then we're going to move down 2 because our y is a -2. So 1, 2. So here is our line. Here to here. There is our line. So y equals 2. So y equals 2x is represented by this line here. So our next one is going to be kind of straightforward if you know which point you're looking for. So the first thing we're going to do is use our y-intercept, the last one. Our y-intercept. So this right here is going to be 0, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is right here is our first point. Next thing we're going to do is use our slope to use the rise over run. So 2 is a positive. We're going to go up 2. And then we're going to go to the right side 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here. You can do the other way if you want to have 3 points, but you're going to go down 2, go to the left 5 times. Here. And this is our line for the sun. Then this sun is y is equal to 2 over 5x plus 4. So this thing, you basically just need your slope and your intercept to graph. So for this last one, it's going to be kind of tricky because what we need from this one was also our C, or if this last one had a number. So like I said, it's going to be kind of tricky. But other than that, so this one is going to be graphing our last linear equation. So the first thing we're going to do is bring our x over to the other side. To do that, since it's a positive, we are going to do a negative number, a -5x. Then do one on this side, -5x. And that will cancel this out. So the next part is you're going to rewrite it. So 3y is equal to -5x. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to divide our 3 divided 3. And then this will cancel out this 3 on this side. So, and we're going to rewrite it again on this side. So y is equal to negative 5 over 3x. Then it stops right here, like, because it has no intercept. This is what we have. So we're going to start with our origin because we don't have our intercept. We don't have starting points. So it's going to be a negative 5. We're going to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's a positive, so we're going to go to the right side 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Here. Then you're going to do the same thing. We're going to go 5 up, go to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then go 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3. Right here. My line's off, but or it's just my graph that's off. Yeah, my graph's not perfect, but that's how you use this one. Okay, so now it's time for our final activity. Yay. So you're going to select out of one of these 4 points. You are going to find the slope. Then you're going to find the equation of the line. So I know that I said for the slope that you would need 2 points. For the 2 points, you can select, or you can just do from here to here. Or you can mix and match. That's up to you. So in the corner of the screen, I put the formula for the slope and the point slope to find your equation of the line. So do you guys understand how to do this one, or do you guys want help on this one?
We need help.
Okay. So for this one, it's kind of tricky because some students actually had a hard time with this in their geology assignment. So, okay, so for this first one, we're going to use the first set of points, so 1 and 2. So we have our x2, our y2, then we have our x1 and y1. So we're going to find our slope first. So it's going to be 35.2386 minus 37.577 over negative 107.6078 minus negative 105.4 0.849. Since this is a negative times a negative, we are going to change it into a positive here. And since they're decimals, it's okay to use a calculator here. So it's going to be 35.2386 minus 37.5778. So this first one is going to be a negative 2.3392 over well, so this bottom one is going to be a negative 0.1229. So now we're going to divide it. Okay. So this one is going to be a negative 101.888952. So you can do the significant value, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to boost this one up right here by using our place values. So anything high and 5 and higher is going to change this one. So this last one becomes a 9 because of this 8 right here. So our M is negative 101.9. So negative 1.1019. So now for our next part, we're going to do the point slope. And now you just only need to use 1 point. So you can use the first one or you can use the second one. That's up to you and how you want to do that one. So let's say I'm going to use this first point. So y minus 37.5778 equals, and you're going to put this slope right here, negative 1.109 or 1 then 9 parentheses x, then minus right here, and you're going to do put your parentheses negative 105.4849. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to distribute this slope to each one of these. Each one of these right here. Well, technically there's two things you can do. There's one where you can distribute your slope first, or you can change your sign first. So what I mean by that is this sign right here, you can change it into positive first. If that's more easier to understand first, go ahead and do it. If you want to do the slope first, you can do that too. So what I did first was I started with the distributing, which then that's when I realized I didn't do the sign. So I change it as I go. So we're back to distributing. So we have a negative 1.1019x since we distribute together. And we have a positive right here. Then we're going to do the next part, which is multiplying the 1.1019 to our now change positive 105.4849 equals, so now our new number, since we have a negative number right there, this actually didn't change at all. It's still a negative number. So 116 point, we're going to round it off to again. So right now the whole number is 2338113. We're going to do our place value and our significant figures. 0.2223. Since 1 is lower than 5, our 8 remains the same. So that doesn't change. This is a negative, and then you just drop everything down. And then same with this side. Since we didn't do anything to this side, I'm going to leave those at yellow. And now for the last part, we're going to isolate our y. To do that, it's the same thing how we did it with our x's from our previous problem. We are going to do the opposite. So if it's a negative 37, we're going to put a positive 37.5778. So now we have this one. We're going to bring it over, and it's only going to match up with the same kind. Since this one doesn't have a variable, it's going to go with the one at the end. Unless it had like the 7, like the x, then we would have put it with the first part, but it doesn't. So 5, 7, 7, 8. And then this cancels out. So we have plus 37.55 or 5775. So now, since we have all that in our new answer, we are going to rewrite everything on top right here. So our equation of the line is y equals our slope, which is negative 1.1019x. And since we did our little equation right here, this is our new y-intercept, negative 78.656. So, and that's how you find your equation of the line. You need to go through several steps to get to your final product. Did you guys have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, since there is no questions, you guys can fill out this survey at the end. I posted in the chat box, or I can send the link to Johanna, and then she can.
I will forward it to them.
Yes.
Okay.
Other than that, that's the end of my presentation. I have another one next week, same time. That one's going to be on substitution and elimination, if you guys need help. Or if you guys would want to send different topics, you guys can do that too. And then I can create presentations for those ones as well.